Hi, I'm Matt from SpeakPrac, and I recently did the official IELTS test, and I walked away with a Band 9 in speaking. So everything I'm talking about today isn't just theory, it's tested and proven in the real exam room. Welcome to the Ultimate IELTS English Speaking course, and in this video we're going to talk all about IELTS Speaking Part 1 strategies that can help you speak more naturally and confidently, and perhaps even get a Band 7, 8, or even a Band 9 like I did. Over the next few minutes, we'll go into detail about everything you need to know for IELTS Speaking Part 1. We'll start off with those first crucial moments that you'll have with the examiner, which I like to call the introduction round. Then we'll go into the IELTS Speaking Part 1 structure, and we'll talk about the kinds of topics you'll likely encounter, from the predictable ones to even some of the wild cards. I'll even pinpoint some of the common traps that people fall into and how you can sidestep them. Before we get started, I want you to know that this video is part of the Ultimate IELTS English Speaking course. The entire course is free, and I've put everything, such as all the lessons, the resources, and everything else you need on the course hub page at speakprac.com/IELTS Speaking course. You can also see the link in the description and on screen. Are you ready to transform your Part 1 performance? Then let's dive in. The introduction round. Mastering those first impressions. Alright, so before the official IELTS Speaking Part 1 timer even kicks off, there's this initial phase. You might have heard it called Part 0, but I find it more helpful to think of it as the introduction round. This is where you meet your examiner and they'll ask a few very standard identity questions before the real test questions begin. Now let's be crystal clear. Your answers in this introduction round are not officially scored. There's no little box on their marking sheet for super friendly greeting. However, and this is a big however, first impressions are powerful. Think of it like the first scene in a movie. It sets the tone for everything that follows. While it won't directly impact your band score, a confident, polite, and calm demeanor in this round can help you feel more at ease and can foster a more positive, relaxed atmosphere with the examiner. You know, examiners are human too. And if you have a pleasant interaction with them, that can make their job nicer. And in turn, it'll help you feel more comfortable. So what are these introduction questions? Well, they're quite straightforward. 1. What's your full name? Your response here should be clear and natural. You can say something like, my full name is, and then your full name. Now, if your name is a bit long or perhaps unfamiliar to an English speaker, you can say it slowly and clearly. There's no need to rush. 2. What can I call you? This is where you offer your first name or a preferred nickname. You can call me, and then you say your preferred name. Such as in my case, where my preferred name is Matt, so I'll say, you can call me Matt. This is helpful if your first name is long or you also have an English name that you use. 3. Where are you from? A simple, direct answer is all you need for this. I'm from, and then you say your city or country. And here's a little tip. Try and resist the urge to ask them where they're from and asking them what's their full name or preferred name. It's not a two-way street at this point in the exam. 4. Can I see your ID, please? Now, to respond to this, a polite, certainly, here you are, or of course, as you hand it over is just perfect. And a golden rule for this moment, while they're carefully checking your ID, just sit quietly. Let them concentrate. Trying to make small talk while they're matching your face to your passport can be a little distracting. And that's it. The introduction round is complete. You've navigated the intro, hopefully feeling a bit more settled, and now you're ready for the main event. Decoding the IELTS Speaking Part 1. The structure, timing, and core topics. So after that initial round of introduction questions, you then get into the IELTS Speaking Part 1. So what is IELTS Speaking Part 1 really all about then? It's designed to be a relatively gentle warm-up before you do parts 2 and 3. It's a chance for the examiner to hear your natural speaking rhythm and for you to get comfortable talking about familiar, everyday topics. Let's break down the IELTS Speaking Part 1 structure. This part of the test typically lasts for about 4 to 5 minutes. That's your official IELTS Speaking Part 1 time limit. It can fly by, or it might feel a little bit longer if you're nervous, but that's the time frame. During these 4 to 5 minutes, the examiner will guide you through 3 distinct sets of questions on different topics. Imagine it like a mini interview with 3 short chapters. For each topic, you'll usually be asked around 3 to 4 questions. So in total, you're looking at approximately 9 to 12 questions. Now, the very first topic is almost always going to be about one of these core areas. Your work, if you currently have a job, your studies, if you're a student, your hometown or where you currently live. That is your home. I like to call these the foundation topics. Now, the examiner will usually ask something like, do you work or are you a student? To determine which path to go down. So you can be pretty confident you'll be chatting about one of these areas right from the start. This is good news because these are subjects that you know intimately. Topic roulette, the predictable and the wildcards. We've established the foundation topics for that first topic set. Work, study, or hometown or home. You'll only get one of these, not all of them. But what about the other 2 topics that follow? This is where it becomes a bit like topic roulette. You know that game which really involves a lot of chance and luck? After that initial, more predictable conversation, the next 2 topics can be drawn from a huge pool. They'll still be about you, your life, your habits, your opinions, your experiences, but the specific theme could be anything from your hobbies and interests like reading, sports, music, and cooking. It could be about your family, friends, or social life. Everyday things like food, clothes, colors, and shopping. Maybe it'll be about your daily routines, how you spend your weekends or past holidays. And sometimes it may even include seemingly more abstract or random things like patience, advertisements, dreams, or even public gardens. Yes, they can be random. However, here's the thing. While certain topics do come up more often than others, beyond that guaranteed first topic, which is a foundation topic about work, study, or your home and hometown, really the possibilities after that are practically endless. So this is my advice. Don't try to predict and memorize answers for dozens of potential topics. It's like trying to boil the ocean. It's totally inefficient, and if you try and memorize answers for every single type of topic totally available, then you might sound unnatural. The beauty of part 1 is that the questions are about you, the most important person in the world, right? So there's no wrong content in your answer. You know more about you than anyone else. All the examiner really wants to do with IELTS Speaking Part 1 is they want to hear you express yourself. Common stumbling blocks in IELTS Speaking Part 1 and how to leap over them. Now, even though part 1 is designed to be the most straightforward part of the speaking test, it's amazing how many test takers hit a few bumps in the road. Let's shine a light on these common stumbling blocks, these band score bruises, so you can elegantly leap right over them. 1. The scripted robot voice, which really refers to memorized answers. Now, this is a classic pitfall. Examiners are highly trained to detect answers that sound rehearsed or memorized. Your intonation might go flat. Your delivery sounds robotic and it just doesn't feel like a genuine conversation. If they suspect you're reciting, they might even throw in a completely unexpected question to see how you cope without your script. Here's the fix for this. Think of it like this. You wouldn't give a new acquaintance, someone you just met, you wouldn't give them a pre-written monologue, would you? That'd be weird. Aim for spontaneity instead. Your authentic voice is what they want to hear. 2. The one-word wonder. When answers are too short. This kind of problem goes something like this. The examiner asks, "Do you enjoy cooking?" And you confidently say, "Yes!" And now cue to the crickets. Yes, so that's a one-word answer right there, and this gives the examiner very little to assess your language skills, and that's a problem. You need to offer a bit more substance. We'll cover exactly how much more in just a moment. 3. The endless monologue. Answers that are far too long. On the other side of the coin, part 1 is also not the time for an epic 5-minute dissertation on the socio-economic history of your favorite type of coffee. Remember, you have 3 topics to cover in just 4 to 5 minutes. If you launch into a lengthy speech on just one question, the examiner will have to interrupt you, which can feel awkward. So here's the fix. Think of part 1 answers like perfectly portioned tapas, not an all-you-can-eat buffet. You want your part 1 answers to be short, flavorful, and to the point. 4. Analysis paralysis. When you overthink your answers. Now, these IELTS Speaking Part 1 questions are about you, your preferences, your experiences. There's no hidden, correct answer they're hunting for, so don't overthink it. If you pause for too long, lost in thought, with lots of ums and ers, your fluency score can take a nosedive. The fix? Trust your first genuine thought. Whatever your opinion is on a topic, it's perfectly valid. So just give that. 5. The deer in headlights moment. Freezing on unusual topics. Now, occasionally, a topic like mirrors, shoes, or patience can pop up. Yes, this can really happen, and some test takers freeze simply because they weren't expecting it. The fix for this? Embrace the curveball. It's okay to take a brief second to gather your thoughts first and say something like, well, that's an interesting question. Then just share what comes to mind. For example, shoes. Well, I suppose I prefer comfortable ones these days, especially since I walk a lot. 6. The I'd rather be anywhere else vibe. It's when you appear disinterested. Now, this is a problem because your body language, your tone of voice, it all communicates something. If you seem bored, disengaged, or even a bit annoyed to be there, it makes the interaction feel strained and can subconsciously color the examiner's perception. As I said before, they're human too, and they can feel emotions. The fix for this is that you should recognize, even if you're a bundle of nerves Try to project positive engagement, a little smile, maintaining natural eye contact without staring like a weird, awkward person. Try to keep it natural, okay? Try to do those things and keep an open posture. That can make a world of difference. 7, the nervous wreck. This is when you let your nerves sabotage you. It's completely normal to feel nervous. Okay, let's admit that. But if those nerves completely overwhelm you, it's very difficult to showcase your true English abilities, which I know that you have deep down inside of you. So the fix is this. Use part 1 as your warm-up lap. Take a few deep breaths before you enter the room. And remind yourself, it's just a conversation. 8, the talking to a machine trap. When you forget the human element. Some candidates speak at the examiner as if they're dictating to a recording device. The fix? Remember, there's a person sitting opposite you. The examiner is a human being, not a machine. So do aim for a polite, friendly, and respectful conversational tone. Imagine you're chatting with a new colleague or university tutor. You could think of it like that. Now, I know that's a long list of things that can go wrong, but every single one of those issues comes from a place of fear or doubt. So if you ever doubt yourself during your practice, I want you to stop, take a deep breath, and remember this one truth. Anyone can speak English, and that means you, my friend. It's not about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to have a conversation. Let's move on to how we can build that conversational confidence that I know you can have. The Goldilocks Zone. Crafting perfect part 1 answers. So we've talked about answering the IELTS speaking in a way that's not too short and not too long. So what's the sweet spot? That's the Goldilocks zone. You know that story of Goldilocks and 3 bears? She didn't want to eat the porridge too hot, not too cold. She wanted just right. And that's what you need. The Goldilocks zone, the just right amount for your answers in IELTS Speaking Part 1. So what is the Goldilocks zone for IELTS Speaking Part 1? Aim for answers that are generally 2 to 3 sentences long. That's roughly 15 to 30 seconds of speaking time. If you speak less than 15 seconds, that may sound too short and doesn't show your English ability. Whereas if you speak more than 30 seconds, it can become too long and detailed for the quick personal questions of part 1. The goal is to answer the questions directly and then naturally extend it with a little bit more information. Perhaps a reason, an explanation, or a brief example. In order for you to reach that Goldilocks zone of 15 to 30 seconds, I like to use a special framework. You can think of it as the A.R.E. framework. The R framework. Answer. Give a reason. And maybe an example or explanation. And they all spell the word R. And here's a helpful way to remember this. Part 1 is all about who you are. The examiner wants to get to know you as a person, so think R, A-R-E, as in who are you? Keep this A-R-E formula in mind, and your Part 1 answers will feel natural and complete. Let's explore some more simple yet effective ways to develop your answers. I'll give you examples without needing to use overly complex grammar or vocabulary. 1. The why factor. You can give a reason or explanation. The humble word because is your best friend here. If you're asked, do you like your current job? You can say, yes, I enjoy it quite a bit because the work is challenging. I get to collaborate with a great team. Here, You're using 2 sentences and it's clear and developed. 2, show both sides. You can contrast information. So another way to extend your answers for part 1 is to use connectors like but, however, or although. The examiner might ask you, do you prefer eating at home or eating out? You can respond with, I usually prefer eating at home as it's healthier and cheaper, but I do enjoy going out for a special occasion or to try new cuisines. 3, adding layers. This is when you combine details. The simple conjunction word and can work wonders. The examiner asks you, what kind of TV programs do you watch? Then you can respond with, I'm a big fan of documentaries, especially those about nature. And I also like to unwind with a good comedy series in the evenings. 4, then versus now. Talk about past comparisons. Here you can use the phrase used to, and that's a perfect way to make these past comparisons. If you're thrown the question, did you enjoy school when you were younger? You can respond with, I used to find some subjects a bit boring, to be honest, but I always loved art classes, and I had some really inspiring teachers. 5, looking ahead. Talk about the future. It's also useful for you to use the words will, going to, or hope to, so that you can extend your part 1 answers by talking about what's to come. Question, do you think you will learn another language in the future? Your answer? Yes, I'd love to. I'm planning to start learning Spanish next year, as I think it would be really useful for travel. 6, paint a picture or give examples. You can use natural sounding phrases such as like, such as, or for instance, or for example. Out of all of these though, the word like is probably the most conversational for part 1. So if you get asked, what do you do to relax? You can answer with, I find reading very relaxing and I enjoy books like non-fiction ones about travel. I also enjoy listening to music or going for a walk in the park. 7, how often? Use frequency, adverbs, and phrases. Talk about how often you do something with words like usually, often, sometimes, rarely, hardly ever, or every now and then. Question, how often do you visit your relatives? You can answer, I try to visit my grandparents every weekend if possible, but my other relatives live further away, so I see them less often, maybe a few times a year. You see, these aren't complicated linguistics gymnastics. They're simple, everyday conversational tools that help you extend your answers from a single flat statement to a more developed, engaging, and natural sounding response. Try incorporating these into your answers, but as a baseline, make sure to use the A.R.E. framework, where you can just answer the question, give a reason, and maybe provide an example or explanation. Your game plan, preparing for IELTS Speaking Part 1. So how do you effectively prepare for all of this? The absolute number one non-negotiable thing is you gotta speak. You simply can't improve your speaking by just reading about it or listening to others. Active practice is key. So you can do certain things like find speaking partners. You can look for language exchange partners online, and there are many free platforms. You can join local English conversation groups or practice with friends who are also studying. Just don't fall into the trap of thinking, I have no one to talk to. Be proactive and resourceful. You can also record yourself. Now, if you can't find someone to talk to and they don't have time and you don't have much time either, you might also feel nervous, so you want to just do some practice on your own first, and this is a great option. Recording yourself might be a bit awkward at first, I totally get it. I'm a little awkward myself once in a while, but it's an incredibly powerful tool. It's convenient when you don't have much time, you feel nervous, you can't find someone to speak to, and with your recordings, you can listen back to them. You'll hear your own hesitations, your common grammar mistakes, and your pronunciation quirks. If you're speaking too quickly or too softly, you can figure that out on your own by listening to yourself. It's like having your own personal IELTS speaking coach. Practice with authentic questions. A quick search for IELTS Speaking Part 1 questions or IELTS Speaking Part 1 topics will give you tons of material. And hey, stay tuned for my next video, which will dive deep into this. You can get a friend or a family member or even just yourself. As I mentioned, talking to yourself can work, and you can have them ask you these sorts of questions. Focus on fluency and coherence as well, not just perfection. In part 1, the goal is clear. You want smooth and natural sounding communication. So don't get overly bogged down trying to make sure you cram in super complex vocab or grammar structures, because they can just make you stumble. You also want to be able to speak fluidly and naturally. Remember also to warm up your speaking muscles. Just like an athlete stretches before a race, I want you to try and speak some English for 10 to 15 minutes before your actual test. It also helps if many days or weeks before the test you're also doing this on a regular basis. Try and make the time to do so. Chat with a friend, talk to yourself in English while you're getting ready for your day or you have some free idle time. Anything to get your mouth and your mind into English mode. And hey, if you're serious about IELTS speaking, don't stop here. The full free course is at SpeakPrac.com/IELTS Speaking course. There you'll find all the lessons and all the resources you need to succeed. One of the key takeaways that you can have for IELTS Speaking Part 1 is this. Aim to be natural, speak confidently, and be yourself. Just treat it like it's a polite and friendly conversation. My Band 9 score is proof that these fundamental strategies I've shared work. All you need to do is put them into practice so that you can show the examiner what you're truly capable of. And a big part of that confidence that you can have is knowing what to expect in your IELTS Speaking Part 1. So that's what we're going to talk about in my next video, where I'll break down some of the common Part 1 topics and questions that you're likely to be asked. When you know those questions in advance, you'll have more confidence to share your point of view. So watch that video next.